What's up guys, Andy from Lex Travel Hacks here. Today I want to show you step by step how I'm going to go about finding and booking a flight to Portugal. We'll be dealing with Lisbon in particular, but of course you can connect from there to wherever else in Portugal you want, like the Algarve south of Portugal or wherever you're going, right? So let's start. This is seats.aero. This is, in my opinion, the strongest tool, at least right now, for finding award availability, and that means points bookings. So we're gonna play with this. There's a free version and a pro version. The pro version just lets you look further out, other filters like class, number of seats, things like that. So you can choose to pay or not pay, but I have the pro version. It's like 10 bucks a month or something. And we're gonna go through here to see how quickly we can get this done. So something important to note, these multi-city codes, USA is the one I'm using. We'll add in a couple airports because they're not all here. I usually add some of the East Coast airports too, like Charlotte or Philadelphia, that are not in here, but it has most of the others. And then Europe has a bunch of them. You can see here, EUR, including Lisbon, which is the one we're looking for. But maybe we actually start with just Lisbon, because if we find what we're looking for straight to Lisbon, then there's no need to connect in Europe somewhere else. This is live. I haven't looked at this before, so we're gonna see what we see, just like it would happen in real life if I was actually doing this, right? So let's pick middle of March is fine, plus or minus 14 days. That's a month range. Non-stops only for now, 2 seats in business or first. Again, if you have the free mode, you probably don't have these filters, so you can just manually filter through or whatever. So let's see. So very little non-stop to Lisbon in that range. Sometimes when this happens, I'll go, okay, well, what if I knock it back a day or something and see if like the end of February. Yeah, so we can see here there's like a bunch late Feb, and then there were those other ones that were, when is this? Oh, those are late February too. So it depends on where you're going. This may or may not work, but for the sake of the video, we'll try to find non-stops to Lisbon, and then I can show you like some connecting Europe options. So one of the most important concepts I teach is positioning, right? So meaning if you are in, oh, and actually I forgot, I'll add Charlotte and Philadelphia just in case. Sometimes there's good stuff out of there. Not this time, if they're even non-stops. But anyway, for example, you'll see here, this is New York, DC, New York, DC, New York, DC, the whole way down. So if you're anywhere but New York, DC, and you want to go to Lisbon and you want to take advantage of these points non-stops, you'll have to position, which means either pay cash to New York or DC from whatever airport you're at in the US, or try to include it on the same ticket, which I'll try maybe a couple examples here so we can use these and see. So let's just say, and these are, a lot of the times, these are just duplicate flights. So like this flight here, New York to Lisbon, is probably on the 25th. That's probably the same flight that United is showing. They're just different pricing and different quotes for everything. So what we're trying to do here is just find what's available flight-wise, and then we will quote it at various partners. So let's pick whatever, this New York to Lisbon one here. You can see United's program has it for 80K. We can transfer from Chase into United, so that's an option. Aeroplan, this is Air Canada's program, has it for 60K. And a little bit more tax, that's $5, and that one is like 60 US dollars or something. So, you know, 20K points difference, and Aeroplan we can get points into from Chase, Amex, you know, all the big currencies. So obviously that is a much better deal. And then some of these others, we don't actually care about what price it shows, like Azul we can't get points into, Virgin Velocity we can't get points into. I guess we could, in theory, like remove them if we didn't care about them, but remember what we're trying to do here is just find the best quote that we can transfer points into, and United and Aeroplan are both good options for that. So we can take a look at these by just going here, and I'll open the Air Canada one also. Okay, so here's the United one, and you can see connecting through DC also, because there were some DC non-stops there that we saw in the list. So this would be a good option, and probably in the interest of time, I'll just do one way out there, but you would repeat this process for one way back. So 80K, here it is, whatever. You can see the details of like the seats and stuff to see what's available. A lot of times for me, I will actually pick flights based on what seats are or aren't open. United specifically, these odd ones, you can see they're not tilted out into the aisle, so they have more privacy and they're a little bit closer to the window. And like number 4 here, these evens are a little bit further into the aisle, and so you have a little less privacy. Things like that matter. the experience matters, not just what you pay. So United has it there for 80. We've confirmed it. This is very important because sometimes in Seats arrow, you can see it says we saw it just now, but sometimes this says like 3 hours ago or 8 hours ago, and it may not be there anymore, right? So here's the Aeroplan version, 3 seats left, 60K. This is gonna be the winner. I teach how to get even more quotes than this using other partners. This is a Star Alliance flight operated by United, so you might search on other partners like Avianca Life Miles, for example. But in this case, 60K is gonna be the winner for this particular flight. So this is fine. We don't have to quote better than that. And so that's all. And what I was talking about earlier is, let's just say you are in, I don't know, Houston or Fort Lauderdale or something. What I would do before considering paying cash for a positioning flight to New York, I would try to include it on the same ticket. So here, let's put Houston and see if it'll price the layover for us. Usually it'll be the same price or very close. I'll probably sort it like this. So this is one, but changing airports, it's not ideal. Let's look at these details. You'll have 3 hours to change airports. I probably wouldn't do that one. And also another important thing is, you'll see here it says mixed cabin. You can actually click this and it'll tell you down here that the Houston DC leg is in economy. Not a huge deal because you'd probably pay cash for an economy seat there anyway. So yeah, and when it's red mixed cabin like that on Air Canada, that means it's less than 50%. So that means the long haul is not going to be in business class. So we don't want that. So this one would be okay in theory, but it's just, changing airports is too sketchy. So in this situation, I'd probably just come over to Google Flights and, oh, but it wasn't DC, it was New York actually. So this is how I would do it. I would check New York to Lisbon. It leaves at 8:30 p.m. So I'd probably leave some time. The smartest thing, and what I usually try to do, is to go the day before or even a couple days before, make a little baby New York trip out of it or whatever, or DC trip in the case of those other DC ones. And then you're super comfortable. You don't have to worry about bags, layovers, all this kind of stuff. You can just go to your hotel, relax a couple days, and then go to the airport like if it's a second trip. So this is February 21st. Let's see. I'll change it from euros. I'm in Europe right now filming this, that's why. Okay. I wouldn't consider Frontier, but you can. But I would normally just select the alliances, and that gives us all the big airlines only, not the budget ones. And this would work, arriving at 4 p.m. if you want to do it that same day. Otherwise, I would do like the day before at any time, whatever price made sense. And so you're just adding 100 and some bucks to your, I'll close the United quote because that was too high. 100 and some bucks. So let's just say for the one way you're at, this is like 50, 130, 180 total in like extra cash cost plus the 60K points, and you have your whole flight. You had to kind of piece it together using positioning like that, but you got it done. And other airports may be able to be included here. We can try a few just to see if we get lucky. Fort Lauderdale or Atlanta or maybe Chicago. I don't know. It depends where you're coming from, obviously, but Fort Lauderdale, nothing. Maybe Miami. And it's possible we won't find any of these, but you always want to check your surrounding airports and just see, because if you can get it for free, that is better, and on one ticket, unless you want to spend a couple nights in the layover, the origin city, New York or whatever. Chicago. And if not, cash usually works too. So here's that same one with the same airport change in DC. Of course, this is just that one date. There was also 22nd, 24th, 25th, 28th. So it really just depends what worked for you, but this is just an example of how I would do it. So that's what I would do. Find the availability here, find the airport pairs that are available. First, confirm them and make sure that they really are available. Then see if you can add your positioning flights if you have to on the same program, like how we were doing on Air Canada. And then if you can't, check for cash options that get you there with enough time before the layover, or even days before, if you're into that. So yeah, that's how I would do it one way. This is what I would do to get to Portugal. Of course, as a last resort, let's just say you're like on a more fixed dates or whatever, and you can't get there nonstop. Like you saw how it was like a little later in March, there was like nothing. So maybe we go all of Europe like this. And then you can even, well, we can do a couple things here. You can piece it together yourself how we just did, and I'll show you an example. If it ever loads. Oh, well, this is a lot of flights. All USA to all Europe, a whole month worth, so yeah. Anyway, here you'll find a ton, and usually what I do is like, let's just say I'm in Houston, so I'll search IAH here. I can see, okay, I can go to London, Amsterdam, Istanbul, Frankfurt, whatever, all for good amounts of points, 60K, 50K, 80K, whatever. And then I would do the same thing. So maybe I go, okay, like Houston, London, this one here. Maybe I'm in Houston and this works for me. So I'll go check this on Alaska. And then I would do the same thing, but with the positioning flight on the back end. So I would search London to Lisbon here. So here we have business class, first class. This is on British Airways, so these are high taxes, but this is just another example that isn't the same Air Canada one. And we could do Lisbon and see if it pops up with the connection. This is assuming we were in Houston and this worked for us, right? Because you could obviously, here on Seat Zero, filter for whatever actual airport you're in, you know, Atlanta, Chicago, tons. I mean, you can see like a bajillion Europe options always, just not always nonstop into Lisbon. It's a smaller airport, but just so you can see that there are many options. So here we can see, here it did price it together for us, but remember it's high tax in this case and a few more miles, but Houston, London, London, Lisbon. So in this case, you would decide, do I want to pay the 15K extra miles and the more tax, or do I just pay cash and go London to Lisbon whenever I want? And like that, but you can see sometimes it does add it together for us and create the ticket for us. If I was in Houston, that would be an option I would consider. And maybe like this, if I was in Chicago, for example, the Chicago-Amsterdam one, let's see if we can put Lisbon on the back end of this. And again, these are just like last resorts if your positioning gets complicated, or if you don't find nonstops into Lisbon from basically anywhere and you have to connect anyway, then you can do this. Here it is, Chicago, Amsterdam, and then we would just add Lisbon here and see. There is London ones, but these are not the ones because they're the red mixed cabin, so that means the long haul is not in business. So no. So Air Canada is not, Star Alliance is not being nice to us today with the positioning. Alaska was with the British flights and stuff. But anyway, plenty of ways to do it. I would start the way I showed with nonstops into Lisbon and then piece together from there, or maybe you get lucky and you're in New York or in DC or in Chicago and you go nonstop and it's easy. But there are always options, right? So even if on the surface it doesn't seem like, oh, I can't get to Portugal on points, like you very much can very easily. You saw even when we pieced it together manually from some other airport flying cash to New York, it was like $100 and something total in cash costs. Just a little bit more complicated on the front end, and you just have to understand that that's possible and get a little creative, right? So anyway, this is how I would do a Portugal trip, or flights at least. If you want to learn more about stuff like this, I have a course called Lux Travel Hacks. It shows you A to Z how to do this whole process. If you're brand new, it can be a little bit overwhelming, so that is why I put that whole thing together. How to get 90 to 100% off business and first class flights, and 5-star hotels also using good points. What are good points, how to earn them, all that jazz, right? So check it out at the link. I'll see you inside, and hope this was helpful. I'll see you on the next video.